Deep Flight 1 is a new instrument in Studio One 7, and it's based on what was an expansion library in Presence. It's now got its own interface, and it's very similar to Lead Architect. And we have a series on Lead Architect here at Groove 3, so you can watch that if you want to dig into more details. In this video, I want to do a quick kind of flyover of the interface. Now, Deep Flight 1 has a variety of presets over here, and I've got one loaded in, and it's comprised of 3 different parts, and we can move this puck around to sort of hear and emphasize and balance between the different parts. Here's a little sustained chord pad that I have done up, and this instrument focuses on pads and drones and sustained type of sounds.
I'm a rebel with a cause, and it's coming with a force.
So we can move this around to blend between the 3 different layers that comprise the sound. Here, I think I want to change that sound. We can click right on these little dots to kind of lock them in place instead of blending between. So I'm going to just lock that one. And here we get a drop-down menu for each of the parts. So I can click here and we get a variety of sounds. Now we have presets for the overall instrument here, but these are settings for each individual sound or part in the sound. So I'm going to choose this one and let's hear it. I can blend between them. Now here, this third sound, I think I want to slow the attack down. We have attack and release controls that are color-coded for each of the 3 parts, and you can see this blue one here. I can change the sound if I want, but instead I'm just going to slow the release down. Now we can shift the samples to transpose them and have them play back with a different timbre. Subtle on this patch. We have an overall filter cutoff. And we can click on each sound to get into a more detailed editing page. I can click there and it brings it up. Click again, we go back to this main interface, or I can click this one over here and we can just move between them. So here we have some modulation sources and we have a little modulation matrix and some effects. So for example, let's say I'm going to set up an LFO, a low frequency oscillator, to use as a source to modulate the filter in this sound. So I can sync it to tempo, or I've set it to quarter notes there. And I can set up in the modulation matrix here, we have 8 freely assignable slots. I'll click here and I'll go LFO1 as my source. And for the destination, I'm going to click on filter cutoff. And then I can dial in the depth that I want. And I'll go to the third part and I'll set another one up, maybe at a different speed at 1/8 notes. And in this matrix here, I can set up maybe the same thing, and we have that delayed start, but let's go to LFO1 and here, filter cutoff. And again, let's dial it up. So you can get all kinds of nice rhythmic pulses going on. We have different filter types. We have 2 LFOs, different shapes, of course, that we can use. We have an amp envelope and a filter envelope. And then we have some sample start modulation. If we want to have it start a bit later, we can use that also as a source for, or destination rather, for modulation, and so on. Now, we also have effects slots for each of these sounds, and we have some chorus, flanger, phaser, and we have different slots, and we can choose bit crusher here for some distortion. And here we get different types that we can choose from, and so on. And so with all 3 together, we can get a kind of composite blended sound. I can pan the parts. Now I'm going to close this up. We have some global effects here. We have a repeater and we have a bunch of presets here. I've got one called up and it's kind of like a step sequencer. We can set the duration of each step and we can set a velocity level either all together like that, or we can grab and drag vertically like that to set velocity for each one. We can have some steps quiet just by clicking on the name. We can turn them off. We can sync them to tempo. We can scale them all a little bit like that. And we can transpose the pitch of them. And again, we can scale the pitches and we can even gate them and have them shorter or longer. And then we click here to determine which part we want it applied to. Now, with all these pitch transpositions, it probably won't work great on something like this. Not bad, actually. It's because they're all 1 or 2 octaves. But let's try it on this third part. It's nice. Now we also have an arpeggiator, so it's kind of like either or. And again, with the arpeggiator, we have different presets we can choose from, and basic arpeggiator settings, direction, the number of octaves, the value for each step, and we can turn that on for a basic pattern. We can scale the gate times like that. We can click the height for the velocity, and then we can get arpeggiators patterns created that way. And same thing, we can now assign this to one or more of the parts. So I think I like the repeater better on this third part. Let's hear what it's like there. It's not bad.
Really show what I think and I know.
So you can really develop nice evolving kind of sounds. Now we've also got delay over here, and it opens up another panel with some basic filtering, feedback control, and rhythmic value. And then we have a mix knob over here. And same thing with reverb. We have some basic reverb controls, and we can adjust pre-delay, dampening, reverb size, and simple filtering, and then the overall volume of the instrument. So that's kind of a quick flyover of Deep Flight 1.
I'm a rebel with a cause and it coming with a force. Yeah, and I never really show what I think.
We'll continue with more in the next video.